was an exciting time to be a college student in 1806. Religion was much in the public eye as the Second Great Awakening swept the land. Inspired by the work of English missionary William Carey in India, a freshman named Samuel Mills gathered 4 fellow students from Williams College in Massachusetts to apply Carey's famous motto, "Expect great things from God and attempt great things for God." While they were praying, they were caught in a thunderstorm and took refuge in a nearby haystack. The gathering became known as the Haystack Meeting. These 5 college students came to the conviction that the field is the world. Their zeal inspired other students in nearby colleges who also formed small campus societies to stir up student interest in missions. 4 years later, Samuel Mills and 4 seminary classmates took a petition to the General Association of Congregational Churches. They requested that the association form a society to send them out as foreign missionaries. Included in this group was another Andover student, Adoniram Judson. This led to the formation of the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions, eventually the largest missions group during the 19th century. 2 years later, in 1812, this agency sent Adoniram Judson and his wife Anne to India and then on to Burma, where Judson served for nearly 40 years. When he died, he left the translated Bible, 100 churches, and more than 8,000 believers. But the Judsons were not actually the first to go from America. The very first American to go as a missionary was a former slave named George Lyle. Born into slavery in 1752, Lyle became a Christian as an adult and was freed by his master before the American Revolution. Lyle became the founding pastor of the first African Baptist church in British-occupied Savannah, Georgia. But during the Revolutionary War, Lyle worried about the risk of re-enslavement in the American South. So in 1784, he left for Kingston, Jamaica, to preach the gospel and to start a second church there 30 years before the Judsons were sent out. 80 years later, inspired by Samuel Mills and the Haystack Prayer Movement, another group of college students initiated a second wave of student missions. One of the leaders, Robert Wilder, was a student at Princeton. His sister Grace was a student at Mount Holyoke. They read a booklet of missionary testimonies written by the Cambridge seven very popular students at the University of Cambridge in England who had decided to become missionaries to China. Their testimonies inspired Robert and Grace Wilder to spend the next year praying for 1,000 student volunteers to go to the mission field. During that year, Robert toured 167 campuses across the nation and Canada, waving the banner for foreign missions. At the end of this tour, 2,100 young men and women had made a decision to serve on the mission field. Having laid this foundation for the student volunteer movement, Robert and his wife sailed for India to begin their own missionary work. Over its history, the student volunteer movement sent out more than 20,000 students. Over time, it merged with several organizations and eventually ceased by the middle of the 20th century. But the world-changing passion for global missions among college students continued. In 1946, the newly founded North American InterVarsity Christian Fellowship recaptured the vision and started a new student missions conference in Toronto. In its almost 70-year history, Urbana has challenged more than 250,000 students with their responsibility for global missions. What difference can a college student make for the gospel? The witness of history is clear and powerful. You have received a rich legacy from the students who have gone before you over the last 2 centuries. Of course, their efforts are just one part of a great global movement as faithful Christians in North America and now increasingly from the global South and around the world have heard the call and left their homeland to reach those lost in sin and far from Christ. What might God be doing in this generation of students? What might He be doing to bring the good news of Christ's saving death and resurrection to the unreached peoples of the world? The story of student missions is still being written. What part will you play? What will you do for the glory of Jesus Christ?